Welcome to 1111, which is a segment from my podcast where I talk about a topic for 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Today's topic is no competition and not competing with yourself, but being your own best friend. I feel like I've been on both spectrums where I've competed with others when I was like, early teenage years. I feel like I needed to compete with other people and, feel like I needed to get the best of what they have, or I feel like I needed to do more than what they were doing because I just, wanted to be the best. And then I kind of grew out of that phase. I realized that this isn't true. Like, this is not who I am. This is not the type of person that I want to be. I don't want to be, the type of person who is always constantly competing with others, because no one really likes that person. No one. But okay, first of all, no one likes that person. No one likes the person who's always competing with yourself with others. But also, you don't like that person either, because whenever you're competing with other people, you don't realize how good you have it. You don't realize the good things are in front of you because you're always concentrated on what other people are doing, or you're always concentrated on what others are having that you can get that's better. So I grew out of that phase. I stopped, comparing myself, competing with others, and that really, really changed my perspective. But I changed to the perspective of, from that to where I was competing with myself, to where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna compete with my old self. I'm going to compete with the old versions that I've been before that I wasn't happy about. I'm going to compete with these people, and I'm going to do better than what they're doing, which it sounds way better, right? Like, it sounds like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like, you're becoming this better version of yourself. But then I started reading these essays, and I started reading this book, the Book of Secrets, the book for June, and I started reading about how you're not competing with yourself. You don't have a competition with yourself, because in order to have a competition, there has to be an end game. There has to be a finish line in your competition. And I don't have that. I don't want to live my life as in, like, I have this certain it's time to where there's a finish line, and if I don't compete everything, and if I don't complete every single task that I need to complete, I failed in life. I started shifting my perspective as in, like, I'm my own best friend. I am working together. Me and my past versions, me and my old versions that I'd never liked, or me and my old versions that I never accepted, or that me and my old versions that only knew better, I'm now working with them, and I'm becoming my, like, I'm my own best friend, not my own worst enemy or my own competitor, because there is no competition. There's no competition to win. There's no end game. There's no rules. There's nothing. So it's like there's just existing, and there's just, the way that I've seen it is, I'm going to work with my past versions to become this better version of myself right now in the present. And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, and I think it's a really good shift of perspectives that I've made that has really helped me realize, like, hey, we have to be grateful with what's in front of us. We're not comparing ourselves to others. We're not competing with others. We're going to realize, like, hey, I'm very lucky. I have a very beautiful life. I get to breathe fresh air. I get to, I have fresh water, and I'm going to become this better version of myself. Maybe I was competing with myself that, oh, your old versions were never this healthy. I would always tell myself that. I would always be like, your old versions would always eat junk food. Your old versions would always eat chips, or your old versions would never drink this much water. So now I'm working with myself to become that version that I want. I'm not, beating myself up or competing with myself and being like, no, you're wrong. Like, I was bad, like, I was this horrible person. No, instead I'm like, you know what? We only knew so much. We only knew better. So now that we do know better, we can change our perspective, and we can work together to become this idealistic person that I want to be. So it's like, also, the competition with others or the competition with ourselves. It's like, who made these rules? Who made this competition? It's like, whose competition are we living in? And it's usually always the white straight man's competition. Like, the competition of going to college, of working a corporate job, or having this much money, or also, like, there's competition in social norms, like, for example, getting married at, like, after college or after high school or whatever, having kids at a young age, not setting boundaries. That's a big one. I feel like lately I've been realizing that I'm working together to create boundaries for myself. For my older past, younger Manny's, I'm working to create boundaries. And that helps me a lot because boundaries are very, very, very important. And if you're constantly competing and beating yourself up, you're never going to really put these boundaries in perspective. And you're never going to actually sit down with yourself and be like, I need to work on these boundaries. Because instead of working together and with your past self, with your 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 19-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever, if you're not working together with your past self to become a better version of yourself, you're never going to see, oh, I needed to set these boundaries, or, oh, I need to, maybe wake up an hour later, or maybe an hour earlier, or maybe I need to work on not going on my phone, an hour before I go to sleep. My past version will love that, and my future version is going to love that. So let's work on that right now in the present. So it's kind of like not beating yourself up and being like, wow, I sucked, I just screwed up and I really failed. No, like, you only know better. Like, you can only do better. You can only do what you know. And sometimes we just don't know any better. And we can only do what we're provided with. So I've been like really I've been like becoming my own best friend, and I've been separating, like, I've actually been imagining 10-year-old, 15-year-old Manny, that middle school insecure, eating disorder Manny, and I've been visualizing him sitting in front of me and speaking to him and being like, what would you say to him? Would you speak to him this like harsh? Would you speak to him so negatively? Would you treat him with so much, disrespect, or so much, non-kind words? It's like, no, you would treat young 15-year-old Manny with love. You would be like, you know what? You didn't know any better. You only did what you could. Now that we do know better, now that we're older, now that we have better decision making, now that we've experienced a little bit more life, let's work together and become and choose this, better choice. So I've just been like, let's just not compete. Let's just not, let's screw all those, idealistic social norms, competitions. That is not what I'm here for in my life. I'm not here to become, the ideal young Gen Z person that everyone, that our parents want us to be. I'm becoming this free, open-minded, doing what he loves, respecting others, doing all that he can to help other people, and be mindful and set boundaries. I think that's what I'm here in my life. And it's like, I can't do that if I'm constantly competing with myself. I can only do that if I'm actually working with myself. And if I'm actually, sitting down and being like, this is where I need to work on. And hey, your feelings were valid. The way you chose life was valid, and that's all okay. But now that we do know better, let's do better, And I think that's really how you kind of get, better at life. And I think that's kind of like how you enjoy life a lot more. Because whenever you're constantly beating yourself up, you're not enjoying life. You're not actually, being like, you know what, I did progress. You're not seeing your goals met. You're not seeing your progress or anything. Because you're always competing with yourself. Like, I could do better. I can, if it, like, you're just like, I wish I could do better. But it's like actually being like, I did better. And this is as best as I can do. If it was doing my bed, if it was cleaning my room, if it was, maybe running 5 miles, going on the treadmill, doing a full day at work, and doing all of these things, that was the best I can do that day. But maybe tomorrow, the best that I can do is read 2 paragraphs of my book, and that's it. And I'm still going to be just as proud as if I ran a marathon, And it's like, you're not beating yourself up. You're becoming your own best friend. It's like, would you have your 15-year-old self sit in front of you and beat that person up because all they could do that day was lay in bed, or all they can do that day is drink a little bit of water? No, you would actually be like, I'm happy that you actually, at least did one thing. whether that be do your bed, whether that be read a book, whether that be do a journal entry. It's like, I'm happy you did this because you're one step closer to becoming a better version of yourself. And there's not this ultimate better version of yourself, because every single day will look different, you know? Every single day you want to become a better version of yourself, and it can change throughout your whole life, you know? So it's like being like, you know what? This is all I can do, and this is all that I can provide, and this is all that my body and my mind lets me, and I'm going to be okay with that, and I'm going to be happy with that decision, because there is no competition. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to get upset that maybe I didn't do what I actually wanted. But at the end of the day, it's not a competition. It's just trying to live, trying to be happy with how you're living. And if you're constantly battling yourself, you're not going to be happy with how you're living or how you're choosing your decisions, you know? And if you're actually, being in touch with your past selves, you're actually making better decisions, because you actually touch, like, you have your past selves with you that are your teammates and your best friends, and they can actually help you make a better decision because they've known better, and because they've failed before. So now you're like, okay, let's work on this decision and let's see how we can make it better, you know? But that's just something that I've been really focused on, and that's really helped me, be happy with myself and not competing with myself and becoming my own best friend.